Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the TWC show. Guys, I got two very special guests with me. First things first, returning for like the fourth time? Third time, I'm not 100% sure. He's been on the show a handful of times. None of them my homeboy Nick from Veteran Minimum. How are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Wasn't I the first guest that you ever had on the
You were
the
the first, yeah, the first like co-host that wasn't Devin when Devin was the original co-host.
wasn't it the casual conversations? I think I'm number
Well, you
one.
were the first guest to Casual Conversations, the pandemic show I started, which has now reached a level where I had Gary Vee on there. And speaking of Gary Vee, another friend of mine on the show for the first time ever. None other than Bo. How are you doing today, Bo? He also writes for 1:37 p.m. I know you guys read my wrestling articles, but you know Bo covers a lot of the UFC stuff and a lot of other stuff outside of UFC and stuff as well. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm good. I'm gonna be honest. I've done some pretty fun interviews in the past, and I've interviewed
That's true. Yeah.
I've gotten to interview some pretty dope people. I'm a little nervous to talk some wrestling today. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me tell you,
Because I care.
Because
I care.
Show is called Casual Conversations because I'm the most laid back, chill guy ever. That I don't know how to have like a serious, proper like this might be all over the place, but that's just the vibe. That's the way it is. That's why I do it that way.
That's great, but wrestling fans by nature are fickle. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, I swear it's casual.
Okay. They're kind of fickle motherfuckers online, bro. And if you don't come correct, they're gonna let you know. So I'm just trying to stay strapped today. That's all it is.
If anybody knows, I know. Trust me, I've been dealing with them for the last 7 years. People come at me after everything. I also have this really weird connection with my fans where they'll come after me about some shit. And then I'll actually comment back, which I feel like they don't expect me to do that sometimes, but I actually do read all the comments as much as honestly, 99% of the time I read all the comments. There's probably a 1% time that I probably miss it because I'm out or something. Then I try to look in the next day, and then I will comment back, and then they'll backtrack no, bro, I love your page, I love what you're doing. I'm like, but you were just talking shit about my opinion. What has happened here? But they are the most fickle, and you do got to be careful what you say. I will be sharing some clips from the show on the page, so maybe if you guys have some hot takes or crazy opinions. We'll definitely talk about that. For those listening, if you're expecting a full all-out recap, we did that separately already. We're going to talk about All Out on here as well, don't get me wrong, but we did a full recap that's already out wherever you listen to TWC show. It's on the YouTube channel, and it was me, it was Tim Han Rivera of Subway Mania fame, my boy Daniel, who co-hosts with me most of the time these days, and then also Jamari, who's a friend of mine from the Clubhouse Discord world that was actually at All Out Live. If you guys want our instant, closest to the event reactions of All Out, go check out that recap. It's already available for you guys. But we're definitely gonna talk about it now because the fallout for All Out happened on Dynamite and Rampage, and we saw Adam Cole again, we saw Bryan Danielson again, we saw CM Punk again. What's he gonna do after Darby? We're gonna talk about all of that. But before we get there, talking about people being weird on social media, I just want to bring up a topic that happened this week and I want your guys' opinions on it. Are any of you guys familiar with Espanol? Do any of you guys speak a little bit of Spanish?
Yeah, un poco sí.
Because I almost feel like that's the almost, especially in California and Texas, almost literally the second language over there compared to anything else. So I had an incident this week, and I'm going to bring it up on here because I think it's kind of funny. So I'm obviously cool with Charlotte Flair, and I have been cool with Charlotte Flair since 2014 when she first followed my page. We've always had a good repertoire. It's always so funny because on some of her biggest nights, and I made this joke recently because I'm like, every time Charlotte wins a belt, I've talked to her in the morning wishing her good luck, and she says thanks and stuff. I'm like, WrestleMania 32 when she just won the belt at the last pay-per-view, I messaged her in the morning, yo, good luck, kill it tonight. She always messes up. I'm like, I'm almost like a good luck charm, maybe. I don't know. But she's always been dope. She's always been cool. I've obviously got to help Ric Flair with their social media, with the social media team in the past. And so I have a really good relationship with the Flair family in a way. I'm a very supportive person on social media. I'm a very nice person, if you know that. I'm very positive. I'm very Canadian, some people would like to say. Pardon me's, thank you, pleases. Very try to support everyone that supports me. And I dropped some flames on Andrade's post to be supportive. And this guy commented back to me saying Barbero with a laughing emoji. And I didn't know what that meant, all right? So I Googled it. And there was two meanings. One being a barber. It could just maybe he's saying Barbero with the laughing emoji. And then the other one was on Urban Dictionary, where they're in slang, the term barbero can be used as in ass kisser or suck up. And well, first things first, I was like, what the fuck? So then I deleted my comment, but then DM'd him yo, sorry if I offended you in any way, but just trying to show some support. And then he reposted because I had him in my story, and then he gave it a thumbs up, then reposted my story right after, like maybe his way to be like, yeah, whatever. I'm conflicted now because then I made a post about it to tell my followers about the story. Because I was like, let's just see what the fuck this word means, right? Because I can't find exactly, and everyone gave me different different definitions. Some people were like, oh, maybe he's saying it like the slang way, like sometimes they say barbero when you're like beard gang because you're both beards and da da da. Or they're saying it because like maybe he was saying kiss ass or sucker, but it's more like in a fun, jokey way. Like maybe he thinks you guys are cool, so he's just fucking with you. Because he's like, he didn't respond to anybody else, did he? I'm like, no, he didn't. He literally just responded to me. And maybe he thinks we are cool because I'm cool with Charlotte and I'm cool with Rick's social media team. Like he's probably like, oh, this wrestling classic guy. I don't know, but initially I took offense to it. But do you guys think I should have?
So I'm checking with my girlfriend who her mom doesn't speak English. She only speaks Spanish.
Okay.
So we use a lot of Spanish, and like both her parents are from Mexico. So I'm shooting her a text. What's it mean? So
Yeah,
I'll let you know here in a sec if she responds.
there's a whole lot of comments, and I have really rare occasions where wrestlers have actually been dicks to me, and it's weird. Like I've obviously had those experiences, but it's really rare that wrestlers have been dicks to me. Like obviously I get the sometimes I might rub a wrestler off because you also like, I don't know if the MMA world is the same or other sports world is the same, but you guys know that the wrestling world is so weird and like still like moving forward, but also like traditional, like go shake everybody's hand. Don't be a mark. Don't fanboy too much, which I don't do any of that shit. I think after a certain age, you stop running up to people and asking for pictures and whatnot. That's just my own personal beliefs. But like, it's like catch them on a good day or a bad day situation. Or somebody will already have an assumption of who you are or what you are until they actually meet you. And that happens a lot in the wrestling. What's happened to me a lot personally, where some people are like, oh, like, I thought you were just like this mark that was pushing your t-shirts and wanted people to rep it and yada, yada, yada. And then after they meet me, they're like, oh, but you're like a fucking chill dude. Like, and I'm sitting there having a beer with them and shit. There's a lot of pre-assumptions in wrestling. Have you guys dealt with that at all anywhere else?
I'll let Nick go first.
I mean, yeah, dude, but I kind of feel as if you might be overreacting to this. I wouldn't look too much into it.
Also, I wasn't looking too much into it, but I was like, I'm curious though.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm naturally a curious person. I ask a lot of questions and sometimes I talk too much, but that's also what makes me unique. And I'm just very interested in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I hear where you're coming from. I've dealt with a lot of athletes and just people and like personalities try to get someone on the show and they're like, oh, can you hit up my agent? I'm like, can you just give me an answer and tell me since I'm speaking to you? Like, are you even interested at least? You know, like, but look, everybody to each their own. I try to avoid conflict at all times and I'm very laid back as well. But I don't let a lot of things bother me, dude. It's just kind of my nature.
It doesn't really bother me anymore, but now I'm just curious what the word means. Like, I wish I could like get him to tell me, like, which way did you mean it? Because I don't care. Like, I told him even afterwards. I'm like, listen, I'm not a kiss ass or whatever, but I support those supporting blah blah blah. I'm like, keep doing that. And then we'll start talking. I send him. So another thing that happens with AEW sometimes is they send us media people the pictures after the shows, like of Dynamite, of Rampage, but they don't send them to the talent. So low key, I've been sending a lot of pictures to the talent, and they've been like, they're waiting for me to hit them up after that. I get them like, you know, I'm not gonna drop names, but there's certain talent out there. So AEW, if you listen to this, yo, send the pictures of the talent to the talent. Like, I don't know how you're gonna do that, but like, just add them to the email list because they all come to me like, where'd you get these pictures from? Yo, this is dope. Da, 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 da. And I was like, listen, I can keep sending them to you guys when I get them. You don't even need to respond or say thank you. Just expect me to send you pictures and don't be annoyed by them. They're like, no, cool, it's awesome. There's a handful of guys and girls that don't get
my
those
guess though. My guess though is that it's not an AEW thing; it's a Turner Sports thing.
No, maybe.
That would be my guess because they're going to be the ones probably in charge of like press releases, production, stuff like that. That would be my guess.
No, I think you might be right, but I mean, when I got in trouble from AEW for posting videos in the past, it wasn't an AEW thing; it was a Turner Sports thing. Because initially, the people that I do know at AEW, the higher ups, are like, no, we want you to post our stuff, like promote it. Especially at the beginning, like 2019 when they started, like they're like, no, Justin, like post videos, like recap our shows, like whatever you can do. And I'm like, cool. And then I got flagged and the page got taken down. That whole thing happened, and they helped me right away. And when they were helping me, they're like, it wasn't us. Like believe us, it was not us. Like we told you, but trust me, it wasn't us. It was TNT. They also have like 50% ownership of the rights of the content or whatnot. So I was like, okay, cool. What were you gonna say?
I kind of feel Bo on that too, because one of my buddies does music and he's signed with a record label, and I got permission from him to play his new
Yeah.
song on like my Twitch stream, but I got an email from Twitch saying that I got a strike for like Dika or some. It's like something where you're not supposed to play
DCMA
music.
or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, something like that. There you go.
I've
So it's
seen
like
that before. I've
it's
seen
like,
that.
dude, that's my homie. Like that's a childhood friend. He's like, yeah, bro, of course play. But then I told him about it. He's like, oh, that doesn't come from me, dude. So I think what Bo was saying is, I think that's what it might be. It might be from Turner Sports coming down. And also the last thing I want to add is going back to the whole Andrade thing. Bo, you don't got friends that like curse at you and shit and say something that might be offensive, but it's your friend, so you're like, I'll let it
so
slide.
that's what
But
I'm like, I just want to know because I think he might have said it as like a joking way because he thinks we're cool, which is cool.
yeah,
then.
dude, I have me and my friends say the most outrageous shit to each other. But like,
same.
if Bo, who I don't know, just using this as an example, comes up and says the same things, it might be like, yo, you're too comfortable with me, man.
And
Like,
that's the thing is like I know Andrade, we've talked to Andrade, but like he himself is still getting a grasp of the English language. So like,
Well, and then like in the usually like culturally speaking, Spanish speakers, they're a lot more comfortable and transparent than people who speak English are. So like, dude, if you're a kid who's like overweight as a kid in Mexico, you're called Gordo as a
Gordo.
kid. Like that is your name. That like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're fat. Like, so we call him Gordo. Like, yeah, I know. I'm like, that's my name. Like they embrace the honesty and transparency way more than like the English speaking countries do. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, like kiss ass, like nice job commenting on my post.
which I'm okay with. I just if he meant it offensively, once again, I was only confused about it for like the 20 minutes after it happened, and then I messaged him. Then he posted Mr. I'm like, oh, I guess we're cool.
The more I think about it, it was.
Yeah, I think he was fucking around. But I just wanted to
Yeah.
bring that up on the show because this is the stuff we talk about on the show because we talked about it on the page. And I also want to say those of you now that are every time I comment on Andrade's post that are commenting Barbero after, I fucking love you. That shit's hilarious. Because now every time I go comment on Andrade's page, someone that follows me will respond to my comments saying Barbero. And I'm like, yo, that's fucking jokes. Because I love it when I turn things into something. It's like the whole Salsa Banks thing, which is also the reason why I think Sasha doesn't fuck with me. But I started the whole Salsa Banks thing, and for like years moving forward, everyone would be commenting on my post, on her post, like Salsa Banks, and I'm like, fuck, I started something now. But okay. But okay, before we get into everything that happened this week in wrestling, I do want to ask you, Bo. I think we'll start with Nick because Nick's been on here before, but they might already know. But just to get people more accustomed with you guys because you guys aren't on here as frequently, Nick, we'll start with you. Top 2 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Oh, I mean, Stone Cold is probably my favorite human that isn't a family member of mine.
Yeah.
And in most situations, I'd probably put him number 1 on the list, depending on how angry my parents get me.
And number 2?
Number 2, man, is CM Punk.
Perfect.
So look, I'm 30, right? So when I went away to college in 2009, I went up to Buffalo, and I hit a weird point in my life where like I stopped watching wrestling, but also that was like the Vladimir Kozlov era when he headlined with Triple H. I was like, all right, this is a long, long way away from the Attitude Era that I grew accustomed to. And I really got heavy into football. So Monday Night Football being on during the football season, and that's when Monday Night Raw would be on, I lost interest in wrestling. And then one day I'm at my crib during the summer and the pipe bomb happens. I treated wrestling like how I treat baseball now. Like I'll put baseball on like a random Tuesday in the background, muted, and I'll listen to a podcast or I'll do some editing, whatever I might have to do. That's why it's called America's Pastime, because you put it on to pass time. So going back to the CM Punk thing, I got Raw on in the background, and I might be playing I'm pretty sure I'm playing like Madden on Xbox. And I see him come out in the Stone Cold jersey, in the Stone Cold t-shirt, and I'm like, okay, what the hell is this
happening here?
Drops the pipe bomb, immediately took the bait, and I've been hooked again ever since.
I have a very similar story to that with my CM Punk story, and my followers have heard it a ton of times, but it's pretty similar to that, where I fell out of wrestling from 2007 to 2011. It was that pipe bomb that like, and as like you, like I did just always watch Raw on Mondays because it was on Monday and that's what I did. But like, I wasn't watching SmackDown, I wasn't watching the pay-per-views all the time. But that pipe bomb brought me back in. Bo, you top 2 favorite of all time?
Well, before I answer, because if I mistakenly use the wrong verbiage or something, let me know. But like, the pipe bombs, like some people think that it was on purpose, right?
A lot of people think it was legit, but I think so. This is the way. So I want to break this down for those that actually don't know if the pipe bomb was legit or scripted, because people are like, no, everyone thinks it's real or scripted. It was scripted in the sense that they knew he was going to go out there and say something. He didn't just walk out there with a microphone. That was like planned. That was a part that was planned. They're like, hey, Punk, go out there, cut a promo, promote the match, air your grievances. And that's what people don't understand. They didn't write down what he said word for word verbatim. They told him to go out there, cut a promo, air your grievances, and he said what he wanted to say. So the scripted part is like they knew he was going to do it. I don't know if they
to that extent.
Yeah, I don't know if they planned cutting off the mic. I don't know if they planned what to do where, like that, but it was planned for him to go out there and cut a promo at the end of the night while CM Punk was laying in the ring. That is what was planned.
I love the way CM Punk says John. Like when he's talking, I love the way he says John. Like I just love the way and like the anger he says it with.
So like, and I still want to hear your top 2 favorite wrestlers, but
yes.
like this is gonna be a little bit of a CM Punk love fest right now. But like I discovered CM Punk back in like 2002, Saturday morning. For some reason here in Canada, we had this channel KVOS, which I think was like a Chicago channel or something. It was like channel 24, 23 or something. And I grew up on WWF, WCW. Those are the things I grew up as a child. And at one point, just WWF because WCW went out of business. So I found this Ring of Honor show on a Saturday morning on TV on this channel. Low ass production, low budget, dark, dim situation.
Very indie.
And at this point in my life, I've probably been to like 1 or 2 local shows in my local area with my older brother. So like I kind of understood, but like I'm like, what is this? And there was the Briscoes with no beards. But then I saw Ricky Steamboat. I'm like, what is Ricky Steamboat here? Because I grew up with an older brother who grew up in 1981. So I've watched WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, and all that stuff. I grew up on all wrestling throughout my entire life. I'm like, what is Ricky Steamboat doing here? And then there was a main event. It was CM Punk versus Bryan Danielson. I'm like, who are these people? And that was my introduction to CM Punk. And then I continued, like, YouTube started happening. I started learning the internet. I'm finding these promos online. CM Punk cutting a promo all bloody on Raven in the downstairs dungeon basement. CM Punk shows up in TNA. I'm like, I follow this guy, and I was always a fan of him. And then he came to the WWE in 06. And they made him kind of cheesy. And he was it went straight to like that dingy promo with the blood on his face with Colt Cabana standing behind him to, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I'm CM Punk. And I didn't really watch ECW at that time. So I saw him when I saw him, but I didn't see him when I didn't see him. I think I really started messing with CM Punk was that Jeff Hardy feud again. When he feuded Jeff Hardy. And I didn't watch SmackDown all the time because they moved it to Fridays. But
2009-ish? Is this?
That's the one. That's it. 2009-ish.
Yeah.
When he finally turned into a bad guy. Because I think babyface CM Punk is just, it was kind of cheesy in the WWE at the first half. He was always good.
That was blonde hair originally, right?
He was blonde hair originally before he came to the WWE, but his entire WWE run had black hair.
Okay.
But my point is, like, I've always vibed with CM Punk. And there's a thing that you brought up, Nick, that like there was a point after, because we're the same age, so there's a point right after high school, and I think now we're a little philosophical here. There's a point after high school where I think all of us, like, we knew who we were in high school, and then we're trying to rediscover ourselves of like the adult we're supposed to be after high school. You know, you get so used to that routine of you go to school, you know who you're going to see, you know who you're going to hang out with during the day, you know who you're going to hang out with in the evening, and you think that's going to stay the same forever, but then it kind of doesn't, and things start changing, and you're trying to find yourself. And I've always been kind of anti-authoritative, and I think that's the reason why maybe Nick likes guys like Stone Cold and CM Punk, because CM Punk was also kind of anti-authoritative. And then I believe in someone that believes in their values and what they believe in so hard, because I believe in what I believe in so hard. And as much as things sometimes change and my perception of things changes, when I believe in something, I believe in it fucking hard. And so did CM Punk. And I felt like I always vibed with him on that. So I wasn't, when he walked out, like I was on team CM Punk. Because I'm like, I understand where he's going to fucking walk out. When he went to UFC and got his ass kicked 2 times, I'm like, no, but at least he fucking did it. How many people can say that? I vibe with someone that lives life on their own terms, and I feel like CM Punk's that guy, and that's why I really fuck with CM Punk.
I want to add to that, because I think both of those guys were so unique. Think about dude, Stone Cold was not like a 5-star wrestler, right? Like he wasn't a Bret Hart.
After he broke his neck, he couldn't.
Yeah, right. But like he was very brawler like, and he was just, his promo work was great, and he was just, my chair just like sank down. I feel like I got smaller. But he was just like, he was just cool. Like he was just cool to be. You were cool if you liked Stone Cold, right? Like he was just so different. He drank beer, right? I remember being 6 years old asking for beers. My mom was like, "You can't have that shit yet." You know, like it was just all the stuff he was doing, the Zambonis and the cop car stuff. It was just so different. And then CM Punk didn't look like Triple H or Batista. And it kind of looked like the comparison I've made sometimes to CM Punk, like more Daniel Bryan is like Daniel Bryan and Steph Curry, right? Like kids could relate to Steph Curry in basketball because Steph Curry.
That's really good.
The biggest misconception is that Steph Curry is a small guy. He's 6'3", but he looks like he's, I'm 5'10", right? He looks like he's 5'10", but he does a skill where you can't teach me how to dunk because it's just not physically possible for me. But hypothetically, if I go out and I just take mad jump shots, I could develop a jump shot. So Daniel Bryan was relatable to people like Steph Curry was because they're the undersized. They're just really good at their craft and they shined. And CM Punk just reminded me of that.
In the same way, though, athletes like Cam Newton and LeBron are hated more because everyone looks at them and says, oh, if I was that size, I would be that fucking good. You know what I mean? Like if I was Cam Newton, I could fucking be MVP. You can't say that about, Daniel Bryan or Steph Curry. It feels that way, Lee. So yes, you're absolutely spot on.
Bo, who are your top two favorite of all time?
The Rock. I know it's just cheesy or whatever, but dude, I grew up on that.
There's nothing cheesy about that. There's nothing. How old are you, Bo? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm 24.
It makes complete sense. You'd like The Rock.
Dude, I was 5 years old.
That's not a bad pick, dude.
Yeah,
I think the answer is Rock or Austin.
I get where you're coming to. The Rock is who The Rock is today. And sometimes I get frustrated when little kids say it because I'm like, you don't know The Rock, you just know the Hollywood Rock. But if you're old enough to have seen The Rock when he was in the fucking company and you say The Rock, I fuck with it because he was fucking dope.
Dude, like literally since 2 years old, I couldn't even talk. I called wrestling Juju. Like I would tell my parents, like, Juju, we don't even know why I called it Juju. I just that's what I called wrestling. And I thought The Rock was the coolest motherfucker I had ever seen, dude. So I'll say The Rock and then San Diego, small dude, Rey Mysterio. 619. My dad has a 619 area code phone number. Like, come on, you know what I mean?
I jokingly always say, I'm like, my entire life I wanted somebody to call me Poppy. Just one time, I just think like, you're not gonna tell a girl to call you Poppy. Some girls have called me Poppy. That's a different topic. But like,
Poppy Chula.
But one day I threw like Rey Mysterio. I threw his like Maestro Classic haircut thing on my page on my story, and he responded. He's like, "Gracias, Poppy." I'm like, "Yo, Rey Mysterio just called me Poppy." Rey fucking Mysterio, just like that's fucking dope. I know, I love Ray, man, and The Rock. Yeah, once again, The Rock's not someone like. If you grew up watching The Rock, like I completely understand The Rock being your favorite. I just sometimes get frustrated where like people that are like born in like the year 1999 are like, The Rock's my favorite. I'm like, from what? Like,
well, they know social media Rock, right? Like they know him from Instagram, but like if you genuinely know The Rock, it almost makes his social media thing now even more interesting because I see he's cutting a promo when he's in the gym, dude. Like, all right, getting after today, 6 a.m. clanging and banging. Like, yo, that is like Hollywood Rock from 2003 cutting a promo right now. So for sure. The other reason I really liked The Rock is I like athletes.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying the muscle big dudes. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying athletes, guys who move really well in the ring. And The Rock I always got the sense like, yo, played football. Like, yo, if he was out and about, like this is a guy who just understands like physical movement really, really well. Then that's another reason I definitely enjoyed The Rock.
He never looked stiff. Right?
Never.
Just always looked smooth and just everything was just crisp. The kip up he would do, I agree, man.
And then it goes back to the thing I was going to say too. And listen, I'm not trying to hate on like bandwagon fans like Thor. You can like The Rock, you can say he's your favorite. But like if you can't name, if you're going to name 5 of your favorite Rock matches, and like 4 of them are just from like the 2012 run and forward, then that's cool, but that's not really the prime Rock, You need some 2000. You need Rock, and you can't just name Rock Austin's from WrestleMania either. Like that would definitely be one. That would definitely be one.
Yeah. It is.
But like if you're just naming Rock Austin, then you're like Rock Cena, and then Rock Cena 2, and then Rock CM Punk. I'm like, are you a Rock fan? I'm like, you can be, but it just seems weird to me now. Like,
Hot take: would I include like the Rock and Sock connection in my top 5 Rock matches?
you could. Well, let me
Like
ask
I
you
would
this
consider
question.
it.
What's your favorite Rock Austin match from the trilogy?
Is it? And I don't know which one's which, so
Yeah.
I would need assistance. But at some point, I think he got Austin in a sharpshooter. Austin's bleeding a bit.
I believe it's 17 then.
Okay.
17, I think, is the best one. And it's soured on a lot of people because you have the Austin heel turn with
Yeah.
Vince.
But
that, I
before
think,
that moment,
Yeah.
I really like the build up. Also, I'm
Yeah.
really young at the time that this match
Yeah.
happened. So like a lot of the stuff I'm learning about like later on in life, I don't know it in the moment. So for me, I have like different perceptions of this.
But I do believe though, and just to like defend you a little bit, and a lot of people agree with me, because my top 2 favorite ever is the Macho Man Randy Savage and Bret Hart. Like those are my top 2, right? Like those are the Canadian in me just loves Bret.
Yeah.
He was my hero. He was Canada's hero. I want to be Bret Hart. I'd walk around like Bret Hart, yada yada yada. And then the Macho Man was because anytime that guy was on my TV, he captured my imagination. I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he the way he is? He's so weird. And then to top it off, he was so good in the ring. Everything about the package. He had the girl, he had the flamboyance, he had the voice. Oh, yeah, it's the Macho Man Randy Savage. Like he had it all. And I was about it, you know. But my point is, because I don't want you to keep defending yourself, because I feel like you're defending yourself a lot about being a wrestling fan on here. I genuinely think, as wrestling fans, we are most influenced by professional wrestling as children.
Yes.
So what we see as little kids is what will always be nostalgic for and what we love the most. Whether you were 2, 3, 4, the moment you can start like forming memories and thoughts, that's the stuff that sticks with you. Hence why you're saying people like Stone Cold or The Rock, or I'm saying Macho Man Bret Hart, because those are people I saw as little kids that fascinate me. I love so many wrestlers nowadays. Like there's only 2 like really modern day wrestlers that can make it in my top 10 favorites of all time, and they like slightly just made it in there. That's CM Punk and Randy Orton. Like those are but that's because those are 2 guys I fucked with a lot as a teenager. Like I fucking thought I want to look like Randy Orton, and I fucked with CM Punk's vibe. Like those are my guys. Like, but like other than that, like all my favorites were people that I watched. When people are like, how is that your favorite? You were like 7 or 8 years old. I'm like, but no, because that's what made me a wrestling fan. I wouldn't be watching these new guys if it wasn't for those guys.
I thought about another Rock moment, not necessarily a match, but a moment that now that I look back as I'm older, it's even more impressive. And I know he was on his way out at this point, but when Goldberg made his debut, shout out.
Yeah.
He hits The Rock with a massive spear. Rock's wearing the vest, right? And he's talking loud and he's like, oh, you're going to come at me. And Goldberg hits him with the spear. I feel like that's a really big moment as The Rock's like giving up this prestige, like, yo, I'm the top of the food chain, like vibe. And he's like, oh, there's a new guy in town. We got to show him love. For him to do that, I think's pretty cool. There's like, you could very easily see a superstar going, oh no, like he's not coming out and spearing me. Like I'm going to maintain like that position.
Literally, Dwayne, as he was leaving to Hollywood, put over Brock Lesnar, put over Goldberg. He did whatever he could before he left. They didn't
put over a lot of guys, bro.
Like they didn't win at WrestleMania 20 and Rock and Sock fought Evolution. Like Randy Orton and Batista and Flair, but Randy Orton and Batista picked up that win. You know,
that's yeah. I didn't even put together the other ones, but I was just thinking about that one specifically, where it's like, dude, and that was a great spear, by the way, from Goldberg.
Listen, I love The Rock. I have my love-hate for The Rock because I have that whole complaint that I think sometimes people think Rock's a bigger star because he went to Hollywood, and a lot of people will fight with me on that hot take. I'm like, listen, I think I will never deny he is the most well-known, biggest star in the world today. But do you love him as a wrestler, or do you love him because everything he did after wrestling? Where does the love start and where does it end? Because if you talk about just wrestling, I think the biggest star in wrestling at that time was Stone Cold. And The Rock couldn't be The Rock if Stone Cold wasn't the biggest star there. Don't get me wrong. At one point in like the year 2001, they were at the same level. But
I don't think
before that it was Austin, then The Rock.
Yo, so I love Stone Cold as much as anyone. I don't think either of them are the same if it's not for the other. Like them 2 together, bro, were so like the most perfect marriage. I am waiting for a Broken Skull session between the 2 of them.
100%.
It's yin and yang.
Yes.
Right.
Yo, yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to be 12 years old and be at WrestleMania 19 and watching that last Rock Austin match. So that's why my biased opinion is that one's my favorite. And for 1:37 p.m. I wrote a really long article on ranking every single WrestleMania in the order of my favorite WrestleMania to the least favorite WrestleManias, not including this year. Cheap plug. But my number like 2 or 3 was WrestleMania 19 because I, as a kid, I didn't realize it. But I'm like, yo, how much history did I watched literally a battle of the 80s with Vince McMahon versus Hogan. I said I watched the actual, in my opinion, the actual farewell to the Attitude Era with Austin Rock, the last match. I watched a Monday Night Wars match that was booked the way that Vince would probably love to book it between Booker T and Triple H. I saw Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle tear the house down. Like that was a really good show. Underappreciated Mania. But that being said, we do need to move on because we do have to talk about the stuff from this week and what went down.
Am I allowed to tease something real quick?
Go ahead, tease it.
I don't even know if you know this. What your potential next article might be for 137?
I got one of them that they asked me about villains I'm writing.
Best heels of all time.
Which is kind of really hard. I'm writing 2 articles, and actually we'll start with this one first. Oh, the villain one. I'm writing the top 25 villains in WWE history. Just WWE guys, so don't get mad if Bruiser Brody's not on there and shit. But it's kind of tough because like you know what? For the listeners, I'm gonna name a few, and you guys tell me if you agree. Okay.
Well, I think I know who number 1 should be.
Okay, so I don't know if I should rank them in order. That's the hardest part.
Number 1 gotta be Vince.
So I have
yes,
I have Bobby
Nick,
Heenan.
that is the best take I've heard all day.
It's literally Vince from dude. He's the number 1 bad guy ever, bro. Like
yes.
going back to,
am I supposed to rank
first
in
of all,
order?
he gets the company.
I gotta ask. Is this supposed to be in order?
Dude,
That's
listen,
hard,
just start with Vince.
No,
All
Vince
right?
would be number 1. You're not wrong about that.
Yo,
honestly, the first like 5-6 names I wrote down were all authority figures, and I realized I'm like, oh, they really do make the because I'm like Bobby Heenan. In the 80s, anybody that was with Bobby Heenan was automatically. You couldn't turn Andre into a bad guy without him walking out there with Bobby Heenan. It just vilified him even more. Bobby Heenan was the scum of the earth. Then Paul Heyman talking about scum of the earth, right?
Ooh.
Then you have Triple H, who as I got older, I appreciated him so much as a heel because I always preferred him as a heel, and he's a bad guy.
I agree with
that.
And
I was there. I was also there in LA when fucking Bryan won the title and Triple H hit him with a pedigree and Randy Orton walked out. I'm like, that was fucking brilliant. Didn't see it coming.
Are you talking about like post DX Triple H?
Yeah. Well, anytime Triple H has been a bad guy, it's been better in my opinion. Every single time.
Like the Mick Foley matches too.
The early 2000s,
right?
The original DX.
Yeah. Yo,
Evolution, the most hated bad guy in Evolution, burying everybody. Like, you know what I mean?
Dude, going back to Vince just real quick, think about it. This dude gets the company from his dad and immediately buys out all the territories that his dad was like cool with. And then just from day one, just would cut ties with like Ultimate Warrior, a fan favorite, and just the Montreal screw job. And then from then on, he's been the number 1 villain. Everyone's favorite wrestler throughout the generations had a feud with Vince. Stone Cold, Rock, HBK, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, like everybody. But Kofi Mania, right? The promo that they did in the ring, like, yo, Vince is number 1 bad guy of all time.
If you want the ultimate to get the fans out behind you, ultimately, you need either Vince, and I'm out another person on this list, and we'll move forward from this after this. That is on here that I think is probably one of the greatest heels of more of the modern era from like 2013 forward. Is Stephanie McMahon, because the amount of times that she's come out and cut the balls off of male talent and just made them feel look like shit. And I'm like, but she can do it. And I remember there was a feud between Ronda and someone, and it wasn't going that well. But Stephanie came out there and basically cut the promo for both sides of the feud and like sold me on the match by herself. And she is her dad's daughter. Like the
honorable mention, Vicky Guerrero.
Oh, I hated her. So annoying.
That's like, you know what, like literally so fucking annoying, but she played it great. Like that, no one can do the excuse me like her. Like that excuse me sends chills down my spine.
I got a lot of a few authority. I got Bischoff on here too, because like he's just like he's so slimy and easy to hate. But then OG is like Roddy Piper, and then Savage with the whole Ricky Steamboat throat thing and everything he did as a heel, and Owen Hart when he hated his brother. So there's a couple of good ones on here, and I'll write that one soon. But the one I'm almost finished, I'm gonna ask you this question to bring it back to like what's happening today.
Yep.
We had 3 major returns. Oh, well, 2 major returns. 2 major debuts at All Out, and 1 return to the ring with CM Punk. Right? How do you guys feel about CM Punk's return to the ring with Darby? Start with you, Bo. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
CM Tights. How do we feel?
So what I what I tried to do, and I think this is the biggest thing with the CM Punk return, is expectations.
Yeah.
Right? It at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you were expecting to see when you came in. I tried to come in with really, really low expectations. 7 years, not, I feel like wrestling's a thing. Like, you got to be doing it often. You got to be in the ring every week. You got to be doing multiple shows. You got to wrestle with different guys to like get that feel. And then there's like an athleticism thing that you got to get back. Physically, he looks really good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really impressed with the way he looks physically. And I think that like his MMA time, and even now he's still like training at Rufus Sport a lot in Milwaukee. Physically, he looks just as good, in my opinion, if not better than he did 7 years ago. So very pleased there. I'm trying to think of a moment that got me specifically, but that was my takeaway, I guess. For sure, my takeaway is that physically, really, really impressed. I set my expectations low. I was hoping he would just like handle it fine and get better as we get along, is my hope. But yeah, I checked off all the boxes for me. Just physically, I was impressed.
Nick?
I live my life under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
So with CM Punk, or just with everything, I go in with like, yo, we're going to Vegas this weekend. It's going to be lit. All right, let's
see what happens.
Bring it down a bit. I agree. I think with the Rufus Sport, he's really good friends with one of my buddies who fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
Jared Flash Gordon. He
had him on my podcast.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, he's from my town. We're
DMing
really
him yesterday.
Oh, yo, that's crazy. What a small world, man. But yeah, he's really good friends with CM Punk. And anytime I would hit up Jared when I'd see him and Punk tweet at each other, I'm like, yo, you have no idea how surreal this is. Like, dude, you come to my crib for barbecues, and like he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's like, oh man, fuck Phil, like messing around and shit. But yeah, dude, I think going back to Bo's point, like, yo, think about not doing something for 7 years, dude.
For real.
I played soccer from 4 years old until I was like 25, right? And then I stopped playing soccer like consistently. I played club and all that. And then I just started playing like 8 weeks ago in a Monday men's league. You would have thought I never played soccer. Like, not doing something for 7 years, bro, is so for him to come back and I think the guy that he picked, Darby, was like it's a young guy who's willing to take the bumps and all that. And they seem to have good chemistry. I was very happy and excited to see him.
And my biggest concern was, will Punk be able to keep up with Darby's pace? Because sometimes Darby can be all over the place and out there and high flying and stuff. But what I think happened there was Punk made Darby slow down. And I think which is really cool, which I think we've only seen it a couple of times. Like, the only times I've seen like Darby slow it down was against CM Punk and against Cody Rhodes. Because most of the time he's really crazy. Because like I said this on the recap, this was one of the AEW can sometimes be so over the top, suicide dives in every match, flippity flop stuff. And I'm not against it. This space. The one thing I loved about AEW at the beginning was like it was a buffet. You got a little bit of everything, right? That's what All Out was again. You got a little bit of everything, but this was a wrestling match. Did it have its high spots? For sure. Was it Bret Hart, X-Pac, 123 Kid 1994 Raw's War match? Did they mimic some shit? Take some shit from there? 100%. But it was a wrestling match. What were you gonna say about?
It's a good thing. I think that's a lesson for Darby Allin. And that's what CM Punk wanted when he came back. He said, like, yo, there is young talent here, and there are veterans who I believe, with my help, can assist these young kids. Like, Darby Allin can't do this for forever. Like,
if he wrestles the way he wrestles all the time.
You don't get to do that you don't get a 10-year career doing that. So I loved the lesson. I think this is a moment where it's like, yo, CM Punk chose Darby Allin, right? If the WWE, you don't get to choose who you get to fight with. And I'm not an anti-WWE guy by any means, but this is a great moment where it's like, yo, CM Punk got his voice, said that's the guy I want to give a lesson to. I think it paid off.
No, 100%. And I think Punk said it. He wants to come and work with the younger talent. He mentioned names like Darby. He mentioned names like Brian Pillman Jr. He mentioned other names, and now one of the names he mentioned was Will Hobbs, and it seems like that's the direction he's going with Team Taz. He's going to work with Will Hobbs and Ricky Starks. And the thing I like about Punk is he said he wants to come in and work with young talent. On the flip side, there's Daniel Bryan. He's like, I don't give a fuck about helping these young talent get better. He's like, I want to keep their fucking heads in. And now we got Bryan Danielson. I got to get used to saying Bryan Danielson again. That was his name in the independents. He's been Daniel Bryan for the last 10 years. Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, is back. He's going right for the head of the
Mhm.
snake. He's going after Kenny Omega, the champion, and he wants to work with this young talent. How do we feel about Bryan Danielson being here? And what were you guys shocked to see him? And I also love the swerve at All Out when we thought it was Bryan, then Adam Cole came out, and then Bryan still came out. It was pretty cool. We'll start with you, Nick, this time. How do you feel about Bryan Danielson?
Well, I wanted to just piggyback off the Daniel Bryan Danielson stuff with just I want to get your thoughts on this one, where the report came out that he got upset that WWE wasn't going to let him do like the G1 and New Japan stuff, right? I personally have a problem with that. Like, I'm going to defend WWE there because I don't think if you're not an indie wrestler, right? Like you're with WWE and I'm paying you salary, right? UFC fighters, they can't go fight at Bellator because it's a dream matchup for Adesanya, right? Like you can't do that. So if Daniel Bryan, you want to be WWE, then I can't let you go to New Japan. And I'm not even talking about the history of the neck issues and concussions. Like I'm just talking about as an asset. You know, the Lakers don't let LeBron go play in China to chase a check. Like, nah, man, you're playing with the Lakers, you know, like Aaron Boone, right? He hit a famous home run against the Red Sox in 2003. And the next offseason tears his ACL playing pickup basketball with his buddies. And the Yankees were like, fuck, man, what are we supposed to do now? We're paying you $12 million. Like, you're done. You're cut. So I want to defend WWE there because it's the cool thing now in wrestling is to trash WWE. And I just don't agree with that.
Which Bryan didn't do a lot of. He actually was one of the guys that jumped on the mic initially and was like, listen, I love the place I used to work. I love Vince McMahon. And he did say in the scrimmage, like, no, Vince, I sat with Vince. He really tried to give me a lucrative deal to stay here and even was trying to figure out ways for me to work other places. Like, we're working on that. But he's just like, I felt like his whole theory was I'm a dad now. I have kids. I'm married. And his life has gotten very, not boring, but very like simple that he needed something wild to do. And AEW was his wild. And also he said that Vince was overprotective of him, which I'm also going to side with WWE on that because maybe you need to be a little overprotective with Bryan Danielson. Wow. Because he did just come out of retirement and he doesn't need to not do crazy shit in the ring. And maybe Vince is being overprotective in the right way to protect his investment and also cares for Daniel Bryan a tad bit. So I don't know where I stand with that thought process. Bo, you want to say something about Nick's?
I did. Well, we talked about UFC fighters not being able to go elsewhere. Conor McGregor was allowed to go box Floyd Mayweather. So when the company gets a check with it, then they're stoked. You know, oh, Dana White, no one's going to fight anywhere else. Oh, all of a sudden it's like Conor McGregor is going to make $100 million. I'm going to get probably $50 million myself. Yeah, let's fucking do it. So, and then I think, there are examples of it. And Brock Lesnar was allowed to, go wrestle, come back to the UFC, go wrestle, come back to the UFC. So there are times where it's worked out. It just depends on the specific relationship itself. Like for the most part, you are correct. There are the instances though where they're like, let's make an exception.
Sure. Money talks. Not going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe they were more lenient to like the Conor example because it was boxing and not MMA? I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a great question. I just don't even, it would be so hard to find the other example. Like if there was a Floyd Mayweather in MMA, would they have let it happen? I don't know. Probably not. But Conor's Conor and the money was made.
Well,
so
the money, the
relationship,
and also how big the name is. If you're not willing to lose someone over them wanting to do something, like that guy said, I don't think Vince wanted to lose Bryan, so Bryan said he's like in our last trying to figure out the deal. Like he was trying to find ways for me to work other places to let me. Like he was trying. He didn't want me to go.
And even Brock went from WWE to UFC, right? So it's like pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, to like MMA. So I think they wouldn't have let Brock go do that if he was going to go fight the G1. I don't think.
Yeah,
with UFC.
But in a weird way, what you just said about sports entertainment to MMA, in a weird way, and this might sound weird for people that aren't hardcore wrestling fans. Daniel Bryan wanted to go from sports entertainment to actually being a wrestler because he's not allowed to be he said, I carried wrestling with me wherever I went. He's like, I'm not going to be like CM Punk and be like, I left wrestling then and came back to wrestling. Now he's like, no, I took wrestling with me when I was in the WWE. I took it wherever I went. but he just wants to wrestle. And in WWE, we know this. It's not always about wrestling. They don't even want you to use the term wrestler or wrestling. They want you to use superstar in sports entertainment. Like, he wanted to wrestle again. And I can see it in his face. The most joy Daniel Bryan's getting right now is the idea of going to wrestle all these people in AEW and put on wrestling matches. I've never been the biggest Bryan Danielson fan as a character, as a person. I was explaining, I'm like, I became a Bryan Danielson fan around like 2013-ish. Like, I didn't even really fuck with the whole Team Hell No stuff. I really wasn't watching SmackDown when he was a world champion. Like, but I'm like, the one thing I always loved about Daniel Bryan since day one was if he was wrestling, I was paying attention because he was so good at that. I've always enjoyed him as a wrestler, as a performer, like as a superstar in the ring. Like, I've always like, if someone's like, yo, we're gonna get Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro, I'm paying attention. Oh, we're gonna get Daniel Bryan versus, I'm paying attention because that's where he is the best. Then I started liking Daniel Bryan, the human being, after watching Total Divas for a bit and knowing that this guy's fucking funny as hell and kind of like quirky and weird, and I fuck with that shit. But other than that, like, he gets to finally wrestle. So like, it's the same thing. He like, you're 1 minute you're a sports entertainer in WWE, and he just wanted to go out there and wrestle. He wants to go to Japan because he wants to wrestle. That's the whole point.
So I could be tripping because, like, I don't think for me it's like, it's not who the WWE decides to push right to the top. Like, for me, it's who the fans decide goes to the top. And the fans have always been bought in on Daniel Bryan. Like, even though I wasn't necessarily like die hard, oh shit, Daniel Bryan like is here, like I got to check this out. The fans chanting yes every single time, it gets me. So even if the WWE didn't want to push him to the top, the fans did. And for me, that was enough where I'm like, all right, I'm bought in. That's all I need. If the fans believe it, then I believe it.
100%. Adam Cole. How do we feel about Adam Cole? That's the last of the three people that popped in. My question I was going to ask you, because the article I'm writing in Almost Done is dream rivalries for those three guys in AEW. And I'm going to pick 4 choices for each. I've picked my 4 choices for each of who I want those guys to have feuds with. You guys can see that when it drops, hopefully next week or by the end of this week or something. But Adam Cole's here, and he's the trickiest one for me, because with Daniel Bryan, I'm like, oh, I do want to see Bryan work with, Omega. Like, that's something I want to see. I want to see Bryan work with this guy, that guy, or like Punk. I'm like, I want to see Punk work with this guy and that guy too. I want to see them all work with each other. Like, I do want to see Punk versus Bryan again. That's something that just needs to happen. And when Punk cut the promo this week on Dynamite, like, he's like, Bryan Danielson, he paused, and you can tell like even he's excited to work with Bryan again. That's someone he's always loved working with. I want to see Adam Cole work with Punk and Bryan, but outside of them working with each other, like, who would you want to see Adam Cole work with? Because Adam Cole is a tricky situation. We know Punk's coming in and he's trying to work with all the younger talent. We know Bryan's coming in and he wants to work Kenny and he's going to do this stuff. But Adam Cole came in, huge pop, happy to be there, left NXT, which NXT fans are probably devastated about, joins the Elite, and really doesn't have a target on anybody yet. He's wrestling he's wrestling, I think, who's he wrestling next week? I forget who it was now. Kazarian next week on Dynamite. But he doesn't really have like a feud that he's going into. How do you guys feel about Adam Cole being here, and who do you guys think he should be feuding first?
So,
were you devastated about Adam Cole? Because I know you were an NXT fan. You love the Undisputed Era.
I was there at TakeOver when McIntyre won the title over Bobby Roode, and Cole came out. And I went there with 3 buddies, and one of them, Justin, was Joe, right? Yeah. My buddy Joe Santagato. He's not like he's like a very casual wrestling fan. We'll watch Royal Rumbles, the Big 4 together. He never knew anything about NXT. And to this day, he's like, yo, that's the best show I've ever been to, because the crowd was into it. So when Adam Cole came out, I start losing my mind, right? And I go, dude, he's going to do this shit where like he hunches over and then throws his arms up. I was like, I want you to listen to the crowd. And when they did that, like, I'm getting chills thinking about it. He just grabbed me and was like, what the fuck was that? He's like, yo, that was very cool. Look, he ran his course at NXT. Why he didn't make the main roster, no one knows. Apparently, they wanted to make him like Keith Lee's manager also, which was really stupid. Adam Cole has charisma, great on the mic, can go. He has the crowd behind him. I think they made a terrible mistake with that. As far as what I think he's going to do in AEW, I think he's going to break up the Elite.
Oh, you think he's coming in there? Because he fits in with them perfectly. Those are his friends from the independents prior to that. I've seen Adam Cole at Ring of Honor shows with the Young Bucks, live in Dallas and stuff. I know they're all like the weird thing about Adam Cole, like he just fit in so perfectly. He's there now. I feel like he belongs there and it just works. How about you, Bo?
So you guys are gonna probably have to help me a little bit on the timeline of this.
Yeah.
But before COVID hit, I was like bought in on AEW. Like seriously, since honestly one of my favorite matches probably of all time is Cody versus Dustin, the brothers match. Like, dude, that got me fucking emotional, dude. Like love that match. Love. Was bought in on AEW really, really early on. I could feel that it was different. From January to March before COVID hit, I thought Hangman Adam Page was being set up and being bought in by the fans. I'm like, yo, this guy's got like a Stone Cold Steve Austin vibe with the crowd right now that like I have not felt this in maybe 10 years. Then Adam Page and like the Bucks were like kind of like on and off a little bit, right? Like they showed signs that they were going to like break up, but then like they would come in and save the day a little bit a few times. Eventually down the road, I'm not saying next week, I'm not saying a month from now, but like 6 months from now, I need an Adam versus Adam match that like this could be the thing that I like truly believe sets AEW into a different stratosphere.
Because that was my next question. Because we do got to quickly talk about maybe like one thing that's happening to WWE after this. But I was like, Bischoff brought up on my podcast, the Casual Conversation ones with the interview. So if you guys haven't, check out all my Casual Conversations. Those on this TWC stream if you're listening to this on audio. But he brought up a point. He's like, you know, the more they keep bringing in these other guys, those guys are going to fall down the ladder that probably thought they were higher up. You know, the guys that we want to see as world champions like a year ago, like I want to see Pac as a world champion. Or Andrade said I want to see him as a world champion. Hangman's going to get that belt. And I do truly believe that if Hangman didn't want time off because he requested time off because his wife just gave birth to their baby, that he would have won the belt at All Out. Like that was the plan. Shout out to Christian being able to main event in AEW pay-per-view. Might not have happened if Hangman Page stayed, but I love Christian, so I'm glad he had that moment. But do these guys fall down the ladder now with the Punks and the Adam Coles coming through? Because I love your story because Adam Page coming back, Brian's trying to be in the title picture now. Adam Cole's here. Like Hangman has some stuff to be annoyed about. Like, you know, that's my spot in the Elite, or like that's my title shot. Like, you know, like because that story is one of the best stories they've told since AEW's inception. Was the Adam Cole, the Hangman Adam Page story. He got the first title shot. He didn't succeed. Jericho won the belt. He started being like the sad, lonely, drunk cowboy that didn't know who was friends, but didn't really feel like he was a part of the Elite anymore. He wasn't the only one that's not a VP. Like he didn't know if he still felt the same way with them. Then, you know, he befriended FTR, but then they really weren't his friends. And then like he won the tag belts with Kenny Omega against really wanting to, with Kenny Omega against really wanting to. And then they lost them. They faced the Bucks, and then Kenny turned heel, and we all thought Hangman was going to turn heel. And like, the whole story is like, then he's with the Dark Order. Like he found this family that lost their leader. Now he's a part of their family. And my whole idea was, you know, Hangman's going to win the belt and the Dark Order's going to come out, celebrate and hold Hangman on their shoulders. And that clearly didn't happen because he took some time off. Like Hangman's a wild card here where I'm kind of worried. Like, is he going to come back and still have that spot? Or is he going to finish the story? Or is he going to come back and like be lost in the shuffle, maybe not get that title shot? Or is he going to be a situation where it's like he needs to beat Adam Cole to get his title shot against Kenny when Kenny defends against Brian? Like, what? I'm so fascinated by the Hangman Page story, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I think what Bo said is it's perfect, and it ties into what you said, how Adam Page comes back and everybody's on the other Adams bandwagon, and he's with the Bucks, and it's like, dude, I've been here from the beginning. I didn't bail on the ship and go to WWE. Like he left us, kind of thing. So like the writing is on the wall what they might do with that. And you know, you mentioned something, Justin, in passing. About how we'll get to a WWE topic. I think that's very alarming for WWE that we only have one or two things that we're interested in talking about, where we've been going on for an hour now about nostalgia and all AEW stuff. And that's I'd be concerned if I was WWE.
Because like I could sit and we could talk about more AEW because like Pac and Andrade had a bang on Rampage last night. Hell of a match. I'm so excited to see where those guys go. Miro's been killing it as the TNT champion. They're finally putting more of a highlight on the women's roster with multiple feuds. You know, Britt's feuding. You know, the
she's awesome.
Ruby Soho. Britt's awesome. And Ruby Soho feels like at home in the right place with AEW. She
I
never had the
loved her
aesthetic.
in WWE, man. I thought
But
Ruby
Ruby Riott
Riott at
never
the
had the
time was
aesthetic that
yeah,
Vince was ever going to put the world title on, unfortunately.
yeah.
And she didn't come in with the popularity of a CM Punk where you could have a different aesthetic, but you're so popular that you can't deny it. Like, she didn't have the aesthetic, and she didn't come in with that popularity.
I don't know if like anyone's gonna believe me or not, but
Yeah.
I got, everyone says this. I got a source kind of on the
Yeah.
someone who's in the know a little bit on the WWE side. Their thought is, competition's good, right? It helps elevate everything. But once you have 6, 7, 8 guys who all can compete for that top spot, it gets hard to manage. And so the WWE, I think, from what I'm hearing, is that AEW may struggle more than they think they will in terms of handling some of the top talent.
But look at
Absolutely,
the top
dude.
talent
Not everyone could be the top guy.
But you gotta.
Like,
but look
when
at
are we gonna? Yo, this drives me crazy, Justin. Like, yo,
no, but
when,
but let me just say, like, a guy like CM Punk doesn't want to win the belt. He's not trying to be the top guy. He wants to work with talent. Brian might say he wants to be in the title picture because he wants to work with Kenny, but I don't think Brian cares about winning the belt either. The top guys that they got, luckily, are some of the most
rational.
Rational. I don't want to say that Punk's rational because he had his moment, but he said now, I'm not the same CM Punk that cared about wrestling so much that I was 7 years ago. Like, I wanted that WrestleMania main event. I wanted to be. He's like, I'm just here to have fun now because wrestling stopped being fun for me, and this is fun. So they're not here to be Terry. They're not here to be Hulk Hogan. I need that belt. I need creative control. They're not here to hold that spot. They're here to have fun. The top guys they got. Go on, Nick. What were you gonna say?
All right, look, I need to just paint the picture so you guys can understand. I was someone who had no interest in anything that wasn't WWE until like a month ago.
That's true.
I
can vouch for that.
I was also someone that, like, if you weren't WWE, I just considered you indies. And all my boys would be like, yo, AEW is on network TV. I'm like, nah, bro, that's the indies, right? Very ignorant.
A lot of people felt that way until Punk showed up.
I get it. So look, right? One thing I always did say to back AEW was that they have an owner who actually got money. Like, that dude, it's not like Impact and TNA. It's like, no, this guy's a billionaire and it's a passion project for his kid. He owns soccer teams. He owns the Jaguars. Like, money's not if he loses $1 billion on AEW, he'll be like, all right, we'll just make it back. Like, it's not going to be devastating to him. With all that being said, yo, not everyone could be champion. And I lose my mind when, like, look, no offense to Rusev or Miro, but when he goes to AEW and they're like, oh, he never was champion at WWE. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Dude, not everyone could be in the top spot. Like, that's why it's so great when, like, Kofi gets his moment and absolutely hits a home run with it. Because, like, dude was paying his dues for a decade. And then finally they're like, yo, you know what? This gauntlet match he just had, like, the crowd's behind it. All right, let's give him a shot. And then bam, you capitalize on that, right? Didn't Dolph Ziggler, dude, I was at the Raw after Mania. Yeah. The place went ape shit when he cashed. And then guy got a concussion. And it's like, you know, your best ability in sports or in anything is availability.
Okay, but same reason, right? So exactly what you're saying, where it's like, yo, guy paid his dues, eventually gets that one moment. I think that is what makes the Rey Mysterio John Cena thing, where Rey wins it at the beginning of the show, and then at the end of the show, John Cena ends up beating Rey Mysterio again. And I could be tripping saying this, but like that was my least favorite moment, maybe in wrestling history, because I was like, yo, they gave him a shot, and then they literally take it away an hour. Like, this is what the fans wanted.
Bo, I need to have you on here again because you just said like the worst name in the world that I could talk about for the next hour and how he's really a heel. But John Cena is a heel in my mind, and he'll always be a heel in my mind. He was a heel the whole fucking time. But that's a whole other topic that I can go an hour. But I agree with you, that was a bummer. But we can talk about John Cena because that guy's a heel. I like John Cena. I respect John Cena, but I think everyone's confused about who John Cena really is. That being said, and I agree with you too, Nick. Like, not everybody deserves to, or needs to, not deserves, that's the wrong word, needs to be the world champion. Yeah. And I think with WWE having 2 belts all the time, it seems like they have more opportunities to make everybody a world champion. And with the younger fan base, everybody wants their favorites to be world champion. With AEW, I think they're trying really hard, at least with that world title for sure. Even the TNT title, to be honest, like those titles, like people that win them there's a reason they're winning them. And Jericho, Moxley, Kenny Omega, those are 3 people you expected to be world champion.
Dude,
I think I can add Hangman to that list because I think we're all waiting. Hangman's that Dolph Ziggler moment. Hangman's that Rey Mysterio moment. He's the guy that we want to win that title because we've been riding this wave for so long. Another guy that needs to win that title eventually, and so this is a bad segue, and I know you're gonna say something, so I'm gonna let you say it though. Is MJF, because fuck that promo this week. Metheny calling out MJF's sister, 16 and pregnant, calling out Linda, like I'm gonna smack your teeth down your throat. Like nobody can, and he's like, oh, what are you gonna go on the internet and say cheap heat? Because that's what they do. Like, oh, he's a cheap heel. This is old school, but it works, and we're still talking about it. And anytime I post MJF, people are commenting Metheny. Like, I fucking love that dude. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. He's a fucking jackass. He's an asshole. I was really tight with him before he became big time. He's still an asshole, but love that dude.
Nick,
dude,
I was gonna say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, about the whole world title thing. You know, you asked me who my 2 favorite wrestlers are of all time. My 3rd favorite wrestler ever is RVD, and he was never a world champion until he got to like WWE. But he made the TV title in ECW like dope. Like, and he also would have match of the night every time. He was the best wrestler at that company. And he was a mega star, bro. Like everybody loved him. And he didn't win a world title until he got to WWE years later. Like, yo, there's nothing wrong with you being a really popular, dope mid-carder who could steal the show, right? Like, I feel like a guy that could do that is Ricochet in WWE. And every time I've seen him have the takeover match, it's been like, yo, that's been the best spots and matches of the night.
So you are a fan of the Ricochet wrestling, where it's a little more like ballet, dance, acrobatic stuff? Because I know like a lot of old school fans don't love that. So they're like, yo, this is essentially just like a dance routine. So you're cool with it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to why you like The Rock and the athleticism. Like, I want to be impressed and I want to be interested, right? It's why I like the storytelling. And it's also like, I want to see some shit that I can be like, yo, I can't do that. You know, like that to me is what, again, wrestling fans, we're all weird. We all have our weirdness about us when it comes to the art of wrestling. But yeah, I don't want the whole match to be choreographed like that. Like the Will Ospreay stuff that really went viral, Ricochet, like the first like minute of that clip, I was like, yo, this is crazy. And then eventually it's like they're drop kicking the air. And I'm like, all right, now this is why my friends make fun of me for watching wrestling.
Totally agree.
That being said, and we're going to go long no matter what, but how do you guys feel about the Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers match then? Because I enjoyed it, but it was some shit at the end there where I was like, that's a finish. What are we doing here?
I love both groups.
Yeah.
I had high expectations going in, and I'm a big expectations guy. So it's like, yo, whatever I expect, it has to hit that mark. Expectations were probably a little too high. I thought the 90% was really, really good. And there's a few moments I'm like, I feel like you guys are a pinch better than this at times. And it felt like they just like wrapped it a little bit, but I'm not like an analyst by any means. I like both tag teams a lot.
Fair enough. Okay, quickly, I don't really know what the hell happened on Raw. Randy Orton's facing Bobby Lashley, though. There was a gauntlet match. I went all through the night. Shout out to the New Day rocking those outsider inspired gear. I really dug that. Charlotte is like the highlight of that show for me almost every other week, and I mean that when I say that. She's so good that like I like RK Bro. I like Charlotte. Those are like the reasons I'd probably tune into Raw. No disrespect to Bobby Lashley. He's having an amazing reign. No disrespect to the New Day. They always kill it. That roster's filled with talent. Sheamus, Damian Priest, The Miz, Morris, like so much good talent there. But the creative for that show was just so bad, and it's 3 hours. And I don't know how you guys feel. I'm not against gauntlets and shit like that, but I fucking hate shows that have matches that go like 4 or 5 segments, because once you hit a commercial break, you've lost me most of the time.
3 hours is way too long. Every Monday, 3 hours. Like,
but they've had shows that have flown by when it's been creatively good. It feels longer when you just have a match going on 6 segments and you're like, oh, we're still doing this, because you'll look at your phone, you'll go make a sandwich, you'll go do something else, and you'll come back and it's the same shit. It's not a good idea. It's a lack. I know Vince wasn't there this week or something. Bruce Pritchard was in charge, and maybe it really showed because the creative for this week was just bad.
If the WWE's true intentions is to be a family product, which I totally understand from a business side of things, right? Like
Yeah.
that is their desires to be a family product. I absolutely get that. And I get why AEW is forming their own lane with a slightly older demographic. 3 hours though for a 7-year-old kid is too long. Like this is a school night for a kid and you're going to run a 3-hour show. That's one of my pet peeves with Monday Night Raw. I was a Friday Night SmackDown kid growing up. Like that was my show. I was more into Batista. I was more into.
It makes sense why you love Rey Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio, and then when they were tag team champs too, like I fucking loved that.
That's when SmackDown was on Fridays, and I was a teenager going out getting drunk, so I missed a lot of it.
Yes.
Why did they move to Fridays? It fucked me over.
But I think that's normal with like WWE. Like you're super into it for
now it's
months.
on Fridays, and I'm older, and I'm at home, and I look forward to it. But when I was in high school, and they moved it to Fridays, and this was pre PVR, DVR, pre full highlights on YouTube right after, I was like, I missed a lot of glory years of SmackDown, I've heard. But yeah.
And then we were talking about Monday Night Raw a little bit, just like kind of what's your favorite thing going on with like the Raw side of things. I'm not following nearly as closely as I am with AEW. RK Bro is fucking awesome. Dude.
The best.
We get to see a different side of Randy Orton. And Nick, it seems like you're agreeing with me, but like Randy's done a really good job of like maintaining the character, but changing the nuances, right? This
Something John Cena could learn. Go on.
I didn't say it. All right. Randy Orton has maintained this. He's always been pretentious, right? Like entitled. I'm the family guy. I deserve to be here. I'm the youngest champ in Raw history or whatever. Like he's always been pretentious. Now we're getting that he's pretentious. Oh, wait, am I having fun being goofy right now? And like, you're seeing that realization happen. I have loved RK Bro. It's been my favorite thing in the WWE side of things for a while now. I'm just a huge fan of it. So I'm bummed that they're setting up Orton Lashley in this way.
Because they want to save Lashley Goldberg for Saudi. So we're just going to put Orton against Lashley, and Orton's not going to win because there's a Saudi event in October. And the same thing's happening on SmackDown. We'll get there for a second. But the other thing I want to say about this RK Bro thing that really shows that Raw is really creatively stifled is they're pretty much trying to do the exact same thing that Orton and Riddle are doing with Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley on the exact same show. Like the odd couple tag team no. Like if they were doing this on SmackDown and NXT, I'd be like, okay, at least it's a different show. You're doing the same thing in a different division on the same show. Like, are you guys really that lost on this show? Like you have, once again, they have all the fucking, like, it's not, SmackDown has all the stars. No, they have so much good talent, top tier talent on Raw. They really, like I said, Sheamus, Randy Orton, Matt Riddle, AJ Styles is on Raw. Like you have Bobby Lashley, you have all this talent. The New Day, like you could put Kofi as a single star. Like you have so much talent on Raw. Drew McIntyre is actually technically still there too. I forgot. Like all this top tier talent, but you still can't creatively put a show together.
I don't like McIntyre's sword.
Yeah, no, I don't like the sword and the kilt either. Once they start doing the sword and the kilt,
so bad, dude. Matt Riddle, very, very early Royal Rumble winner. Like early predictions. I think that dude is a mega star. I love that he's an actual ass kicker too. Like, dude he was on a 4-fight winning streak, Justin, in the UFC. Bo, and I know you know this because you're more like into MMA and UFC, but like, and he got cut because of weed. Right. And there was a famous clip of Dana White calling him a knucklehead. And he's like, hey, douchebag, where are you going to go make 6 figures a year? And then it cuts to him at NXT getting a pop from Morrow. Like, yo, he's so different, man. Like, yo, being different is dope. First of all, I used to hate that he wrestled with no shoes. And now it's like my favorite thing. Like when he flips the sandals out and all that. And that guy, he has the it factor. And I hate using that because it's so cliche, but like, dude is different.
It's the same thing like to wrap things up to the beginning. Like it was the thing that stood about CM Punk. He was so undeniably himself.
Yeah.
Like even if you try to change them, they're just themselves. Daniel Bryan was so no matter what you tried to do with Daniel Bryan, he still was an ass kicker wrestler in the ring. The guys that are so undeniably themselves are the ones I feel like Randy Orton. We've watched, to both points, we've literally watched Randy Orton grow up. From Evolution Randy Orton to 2009 punting, but we've seen him grow as a character and even as a human. When he became a father, he became like a better person with a better personality on television. When he was Evolution Randy Orton, this guy seems like he's actually a douche in real life. Like he was so undeniably himself no matter what. And those are the guys I feel like we connect with the most. And I think Matt Riddle has that as well.
He's
On the-
100% himself, dude. I got
Yeah.
to meet him because a friend of mine is really close friends with him. No cameras, nothing around. And he just goes up to my buddy Mike. He's like, bro. And I just go, yo, Mike, is he really? He's like, yeah, man. He's like just a bro. Like it's just a term that you understand what that means.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I exactly know what's happening at NXT, but they are doing the rebrand this upcoming week. Tuesday, we're gonna see the new NXT, the colorful NXT. Excited, worried, where do you stand?
Man, NXT has really taken a huge dive for me ever since the Nakamura group got called up. Like
Yeah.
ever since then, if it wasn't for that's why I thought Adam Cole was the MVP of NXT the last like 2 years, because ever since then, that was the only reason why I tuned into NXT takeovers. And yo, Bo, this is the first time that we've like linked up. Dude, I was pro NXT for like I would prefer going to NXT than to SummerSlam because they ran, I believe it was 4 years in a row
4
at
5 years
Barclays.
at Barclays, yeah.
And it wasn't until the last one where I went to SummerSlam. Like I was just going to NXTs and I just loved the vibe to it. And I thought Adam Cole was the biggest star there. Like they sort of plateaued, they sort of peaked, I should say, with like the Ciampa Gargano stuff. And then after that, I've lost a lot of interest, man. And I think a lot of it had to do with that class leaving.
I also think a lot of it had to do with them going to USA, like actually being on television and having to change a little bit of the stuff and going 2 hours.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, I mean that kind of coincides with the timetable when I started losing interest too. So you might be right.
Yeah,
it's a lot of bro. It's a lot of wrestling, dude.
Bo, how do you feel about this change? Are you open minded with it? Just gonna see what's gonna happen, or
honestly, I've been not. I don't want to say out because it's too negative of a term. I just have not been interested in NXT pretty much since AEW's been on like Wednesday nights, and I like. For me, it's just the way I've been into it the last few months. Adam Cole was the one bright spot that I was awfully excited for pretty much every week, where I'd be like, yo, I'm going to watch AEW, but I'm going to YouTube the Adam Cole like highlights afterwards because like I'm not missing like that guy perform. I am a Pat McAfee fan, like even working in the podcast space, like I'm not supposed to like other podcasts, I don't think.
I mean, I think we all like each other, so.
Sure. yeah. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not really supposed to like idolize people or look up to people, which is ridiculous. But I think Pat McAfee is a great entertainer, and I was hoping that him and Adam Cole were going to be able to like finish off their feud. So pretty disappointed that that's not going to happen.
Well, Pat's on SmackDown now doing commentary, and they kind of did with Pat made a tweet about Adam Cole leaving, saying he ran him off. It's pretty funny and stuff. But
okay.
But I'm just gonna stay open minded with it. I'm like you guys as well. I've been honest about it. I've been so off and on with NXT throughout its entire inception. I'm someone that watched it since it became like its own thing and not a game show no more in 2012. Because in Canada they aired it on Sportsnet before the network. So I was there when Sasha Banks was still blonde hair, not the boss yet. Hence when I became a fan. Like I saw all that, but throughout the years I've been off and on about it because to Nick's point, there's just too much wrestling on all week, and I got other responsibilities in life. And to sit there and watch everything is a lot. But I do think the glory days are behind them. I'm going to keep an open mind about the look and the production of it all. But I think what NXT once was, like, we're going to talk about it like we talk about the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era. Like, there's an era that has died, and we've moved from it. And a lot of that also has to do, and then we're going to talk about it, so I'm going to bring it up briefly. Right, like, I'm going to reference it right here to bring it up. Is like Mick Foley's comments about where WWE is right now is not fully wrong. Because he in his prime examples, like look how they use Karrion Kross on the main roster, and it's true. There's been success stories, obviously, right? Like we've seen Damian Priest being used pretty well right now, but most of the guys that were big stars in NXT that they built as like big names came to the main roster, and the Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, like there's a lot of guys that aren't really doing much. They want to make Adam Cole a manager, and that disconnect has made I think a lot of fans have less faith of NXT because they're like, well, when these guys get called up anyways, like. Bobby Roode was a big star in NXT, to
compare it with like other forms of entertainment. To take that it's wrestling. Don't say that it's wrestling, right? Just say that it's you're telling a story, right? If this is movies or if this is television or if this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is the MCU, right? Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown are your big blockbusters. Those are your Avengers movies where it's like all the stars are there. The NXT is the version of like, oh, this is our Disney Plus show Loki. Yeah. This is our Disney Plus show WandaVision. The reason WandaVision and Loki work is because it has major implications on the Avengers movies that are coming up. And if you're not going to give NXT any bit of like importance, if you're not going to have any impact on the other shows, then why should the fans take it seriously?
You bring them up, you reinvent them, and then you take everything they did in NXT. Because everything Karrion Kross did as a badass on NXT does not feel relevant on the main roster now.
But could you imagine like once a month if you dropped like kind of a bomb like on an NXT show and it made fans check in? Like if you were like, yo, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do on NXT tonight. You have to have some implications on the show.
They need to be connected in some way.
Mhm.
I remember I wanted Aleister Black, and I'm a big Malachi Black fan of what he's doing in AEW now. He's one of my favorites there as well. But like, even with him, like I was like, when he came to the main roster, I'm like, he should have confronted Seth right away and went for that belt. Why not? Oh, because he's from NXT. He has to start from the bottom and work his way up to this main. I'm like, no, that's a match. I would have sunk my teeth into that. Seth, who was a really boring babyface at the time, getting confronted by Aleister Black. You know, you got something here. But no, instead we're gonna have him come up and sit in a room, talk to us for a bunch of weeks, fight Buddy Murphy like 5 times, help Rey Mysterio fight Seth, and then get released.
Dude, Bo, you absolutely crushed that analogy of the Marvel universe. Dude, that was fantastic. That got to get clipped, Justin.
I will.
Yeah, you gotta clip that.
I will
and
be
send
on
that
the
over.
Facebook tomorrow when
Bro,
I promote again tomorrow.
Yo, listen, real quick, right? When Edge won the Rumble, and the most interested I got was when he showed up at NXT and confronted Finn.
And I said I would be so happy if Edge actually came here.
Bro, that would have made what Bo said, right? Like the bookends of the week are your blockbusters, and you bring someone from there to the Loki, right? And you bring them to, yo, I just won the Rumble, but I want that title. And then everyone's going to be like, yo, the Royal Rumble winner wants to go after that title. Immediately, it just skyrockets the brand. And I'm a big Finn Balor fan too. Like, that's my guy.
Well, and they tried it with Finn and they tried it with Charlotte. It didn't exactly work, but I just mean like those are like Finn was different. It almost felt like Finn was a part of NXT. It didn't feel like he came down because he was gone already. Charlotte was a failed attempt. The way that all played out, personally, I think Charlotte's the best. She's not Sasha's my favorite. Don't get me wrong, but Charlotte's number 2, and like
Vayner Sports gang.
yeah, Charlotte's number 2 for sure. And like they just failed the execution of that, I should say. But anyways, I just want to get what you because NXT is gonna have a whole overhaul this Tuesday, so I just want to talk about it just a little bit. Shout out to Triple H. I hope he's doing all right. He had a cardiac issue and had surgery. Best wishes to Triple H and the entire family. I hope he's doing well because I'm a Triple H fan. He's up there in my fucking top 20 of all time for sure.
DX might be my favorite tag team of all time,
and it would make sense. It would make sense. Why not? Lastly, we're not gonna talk too much about SmackDown. There's a bunch going on. There's Becky Lynch trying to be Connor and the whole Bianca thing and all that. That's cool. I still don't know how I feel about Becky. I always say this, I don't love Becky. Like I think a lot of fans love Becky, but I do really like Becky, and I've always liked Becky. But I've always liked Sasha and Charlotte more, and it's always been my thing. But Becky, I do like Becky, but I feel like the love for Becky for me was like I was down with the whole man push. I was down when she was the underdog, and we were the ones backing her up. But the moment the machine got behind it, and she became WWE's Becky Lynch, it wasn't cool no more. And she started becoming like Super Becky, like Super Cena, where she was just beating everybody. When she beat Shayna when she shouldn't have beat Shayna. She beat Sasha when she shouldn't have beat Sasha. She beat all these people when she shouldn't have beat them, and I was confused about it. And even Becky's gone on a limb said I wanted Shayna to beat me at WrestleMania. Like I don't know why that didn't happen. Like like she said it herself. But once the machine got behind, I'm not behind Becky. Are you guys booing Becky or cheering Becky?
It's kind of I think her stepping away when she did because she got pregnant was like perfect because I feel as if it was getting very stale.
It was, yeah.
It was still like it was maybe. I don't know if you guys ever been to the Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, but like Nitro is a very famous ride where it's like a 300-foot ascension. And then like the ride at the peak, when it starts to drop, there's like a little pause and then it's just a nosedive. I feel like Becky got at the point where it was the pause and it was going to only get worse. But then when she stepped away, I thought it was perfect timing. But I think trying to run it back, like you can't redo something like that.
Well, I feel like they realized that that's why she's because the way she beat Bianca at SummerSlam and the way she's acting, I was like they're trying to portray her as the heel because they want the fans to cheer Bianca. The problem is there's a big residual of fans that still missed Becky cheering her, and she's being at like not like agreeing to face Bianca again, squashing Bianca in 2 minutes. Like that was their plan, but I'm on the boat of like I want to boo Becky. But I feel like the fans aren't, and that one is a really confused place where I'm almost like, just turn Bianca heel. Let Bianca beat the crap out of Becky. I don't know.
Can I be honest?
Yeah, that's what we like here.
This is a huge problem.
Yeah.
If we don't know to boo or cheer, and we're having a conversation amongst 3 people who are pretty fucking into this shit, and we don't know what the answer is, that's a problem. So I was super into the Becky stuff early on. It felt natural. It felt real. And like, honestly, it's kind of mimicked Conor McGregor's career where it's like, you know, Conor McGregor's first 5-6 fights, there's this magic about him. He's talking as much shit as anyone else in the fucking organization, wiping people like instantly, 14-second knockouts or whatever. If I was to take a guess at where it went wrong, is I'm a huge Ronda Rousey fan, but Ronda Rousey's inconsistency probably with the WWE had a major impact on what they wanted to do with Becky, right? You were trying to set up a lot of matches between the two. Ronda retires, and now you're like left with Becky just being Becky. I felt like there was a minor disconnect from when the moment Ronda kind of wrapped things up to now with Becky. And like ever since then, they haven't had that same level of like vibe with Becky.
I think to your point, Becky's peak was that WrestleMania moment when she won the triple threat. Like that was the last Becky hurrah. And then because like, and we can talk about Becky for a little bit too, but I just want to talk.
I probably have to go. I probably have to go somewhat soonish.
No, we're gonna leave in like 5 minutes because
cool.
The last thing I'm gonna say about Becky is, and then this is, and I made this point a million times, so I'm just gonna say it. I've always preferred Becky chasing the title than actually being the champion, and that's the problem. They put the belt on her and they make her like a super dominant champion. Becky was compared to Stone Cold early on, and the best thing about Stone Cold in the late 90s was Vince was always finding ways to get that belt off him and screw him out of that title, that he had to chase it again. And that's what made us love Stone Cold even more, because we were always on that ride with Stone Cold trying to get that belt back. With Becky, she won it, and then it was like she's the greatest champion ever. That's not what we wanted. We loved underdog Becky. We loved chasing Becky. That's all I'm going to say about that. Go ahead.
What if, okay, so I'm trying to think of solutions. I think it's really easy to criticize a show and say like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, you have to come up with a better solution yourself.
I'm going to turn Bianca heel. Bianca heel.
my theory with Becky is have her build. Not a champ, win. But then early on in her championship like reign, have her get too cocky and lose by mistake. Like, and then she's got to rebuild. And then when she gets too big, she gets cocky, makes a mistake, and like gets pinned in like in a weird way because she's like looking up to the crowd or something. Like, I don't know. I feel like you could build that.
Schoolboy pin. I am such a sucker for like inside cradle victories. Like anyone that hates on them, it's like, yo, Savage Steamboat.
I'm
like
still
the
waiting
greatest match of all time, and that ends in like an inside cradle.
I'm still waiting for Eva Marie to win that title with a schoolboy victory, and everyone loses their shit.
Yo.
Very lastly, Brock Roman feels different. SmackDown's the A show right now. We've never had heel Roman versus. I would say Lesnar just being Lesnar, but technically it is sort of a babyface Lesnar, which is weird to say. But it feels different. If this was like a year or two ago, I'd be like, fuck, I don't want to see Roman and Brock again. We've seen this like 50 million thousand times, but something feels different about it this time around. Obviously, they're saving this for Saudi. So it's a two-part question. Then let people know where they can find you and wrap it up. But this is all it is. 1, are you into this Brock Roman? And 2, do you feel like they're wasting the Demon now because we're having the Demon come out to face Roman at Extreme Rules, knowing that we're getting Brock Roman and Saudi?
Yeah, it's definitely a waste of the Demon. It also takes him like 5 hours to get that makeup on, so I feel bad for him yesterday on SmackDown when he had to come out for that. But Brock Roman is cool now because their characters have changed.
Yeah,
that's about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of fed up with Brock and Goldberg and like all these dudes that come back. Like I get it. You want to sell tickets or whatnot, but man, it's just, I think that's a big issue. That's a
And
big
that's
issue
their
too.
answer to everything that's happening in AEW is like,
It's fresh.
Brock
It's newer
and
stuff.
Goldberg,
It's-
yeah. Bo?
When Roman Reigns was getting the everlasting push and everyone didn't want him to get the push, I do really like Roman Reigns.
Same here. I
Um,
never actually hated Roman at any point. Like fully
No.
hated him with others.
I do think him as a heel is working better.
Yes.
There's still just like 5% that's missing though. There's something still where it's like, yo, I swear Roman could borderline become one of the greatest heels of all time right now because of the relationship with the audience and the fans. And it's just not quite there. Maybe Heyman can, make the magic happen or whatever. I'm personally not super fucking stoked on Brock versus Roman again. Like I've seen it enough times and I'm a casual fan. So
Yeah.
dude, if you're a diehard fan and you've seen literally every Brock Roman match, like I would be even more out of it. I'm a casual. I've only seen these a few times and I'm done. So,
And to your point, like I don't know if I'm necessarily excited for the actual match. I just like the concept of it, like the story of it. But like the
Sure.
match itself, I'm like, I already know what to expect. It's be suplex to Superman punch. Like it's very Brock Lesnar match these days. Like I don't.
dude, if you cut Brock Lesnar's ponytail off, it would be the same fucking thing as a year ago.
And he put Heyman back in his corner because that's the biggest difference. Is Heyman's the most entertaining part of this feud. Whose side is he on? Like,
Of course.
And Bo, do you feel like they're kind of wasting Finn with how they're playing him as this guy that's just
He has the black and red, like demon makeup.
And the thing about, let me give you a background of the demon. The demon character has technically never lost a match on the main roster. It's lost once to Samoa Joe in NXT, but once again, they treat NXT like the bastard stepchild that nobody really knows about. So he's never lost in the main roster in that paint, in that demon persona. So now he's facing Roman at Extreme Rules in this persona. And nobody expects Roman to lose the belt because he's going to wrestle Brock and Saudi. So is he just using this persona to build up Roman more?
Wait, so the demon has lost on NXT and they're still running with this idea that the demon has never lost?
Yeah.
Bro, that's fucking ridiculous. I don't even like, I'm not an expert by any means. I've said that fucking 20 times today, but like, how can you have a show that's part of your organization, have something happen on that show, and then it not impact the other shows? Like, that literally just makes no sense to me. That's super frustrating. I like Finn Balor a lot. I would imagine Roman Reigns still wins at Extreme Rules, would be my guess, because Roman is Roman. But I'm super bummed to hear this, honestly. Like, this is really disappointing. It's worse. It's actually worse than what I thought it was.
Oh, no, it is. Trust me. We know.
Wow.
Mick Foley was spitting when he said that shit. There's a lot of truth to it.
Wow. The only thing that we didn't get to that I wanted to bring up is that I really like Kevin Owens. I don't know if Kevin Owens likes this Logan Paul shit or not. I can't tell because I'm sure it's really
I mean, he wasn't even
popular.
on the show yesterday for the Garden. That man's contract is up in January, and he's going to All Elite Wrestling because he's also friends with the Young Bucks.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's his crew.
Matt Rushmore.
Yeah, he teased it and shit. And he's
Kevin Steen.
Yeah.
Kevin Steen.
And he's gonna go back. Like the way they've used him for the past 2 years, outside of his feud with Roman earlier this year when they needed Roman. Once again, Kevin Owens is what Finn Balor is right now. Someone to feed Roman Reigns, to build up the Roman Reigns character and like make him look really good that the fans love. And I'm not against that, but they haven't done anything relevant with Kevin Owens since. Don't get me wrong. He did the Logan Paul shit around WrestleMania time. He got to have a match at WrestleMania with his best friend, Sami Zayn, which is a huge moment for them personally. But outside of that, what has he been fucking doing since? The man should leave.
Yeah.
And I'm against AEW signing more and more talent, but take Kevin Steen, take Sami Zayn, and then cut off the fucking wire. Like,
shout out WWE for grabbing Trae Young for the Madison Square Garden stuff. That is fucking genius. I loved it.
Yeah, there you go. Positive WWE stuff.
That was as a diehard Knicks fan, that was amazing. That made me pop. I was hyped and so upset, but it was perfect. Heel heat, Trae Young too. Just it was grade A++, 5-star segment.
Chef's kiss. Loved it.
Let them know where they can find you, Bo. Where can everybody find you?
It's at Bo Templin, exactly as my name is spelled. BOTEMPLIN. Instagram, Twitter, nice and easy. Podcast. We'll be rebranding, so I'm not even going to plug it. But In the Fight is the podcast. We're on 1:37 p.m.'s YouTube, interviewing fighters almost every week. Boxing, MMA. It's a lot of fun, and I try and welcome like quote unquote casuals. So if you're just minorly interested in fighting, it's a great place to learn.
There you go. Nick, where can the people find you?
I actually just did a rebrand of my own too. I got my actual name on my social media at Nick Dais 10
Is that what you did?
DAIS. Yeah, it's no more the Lamb Show, man. For
Wow.
purposes, I need to share with you on the side. But yeah, Nick Dais 10 is where you can find me.
I started posting more on my personal page because I was told that I need to put my face out there more and yada yada yada. So I kind of understand. Justin Dillon needs to be Justin Dillon eventually because the wrestling classic, you know. But
it is. I don't think it's the end of the world, dude. Honestly,
I'm with it. I should though. I used to, like I said earlier, really briefly, like I used to be a lot more, or maybe I said off the air, I was a lot less confident about putting myself out there back in the day. Now I'll throw myself out there, whatever the fuck you want. You want me to take a stink face from Rikishi? Let's do it. You want me to work out with Sheamus and be really bad at it? Let's play. So
yeah, I think it's great. The Wrestling Classic though, like I think that's a great fucking name. Like, dude, I have homies from college who follow your page and they don't even know I'm like on the show today.
I hear that shit all the time, and I'm like, I've been told that I'm the most like I never pump myself up the way that I should, and I'm like, I don't know how to. Like, I don't get it. I don't know how other people perceive the page. When I get opportunities, I don't even know why. But then everyone's like, "What do you mean? Are you stupid?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to know." But
dude, like, honestly, your page is how I consume most of my wrestling content. So
I appreciate it. And also thank you because you were the first person I reached out to when I was interested and wanted to write for 1:37 p.m. I was like, "So how do I jumped in your live stream? And I was like, "So how do I do this?"
Got you.
You got me all linked up, and look what it led to: an interview with Gary Vee talking about wrestling. That even the Gary Vee team reposted on their Gary Vee Experience podcast stream, which was really super cool to see because like I used to listen to that a lot back in the day, and now I'm like, oh, there's a Wrestling Classic episode on this feed. That's fucking insane. Like, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? For me, guys, the link in my bio. Literally, if you follow me on Instagram, click the link in my bio. The links to everything is there. The articles, my Patreon, the podcasts, the YouTube channel. Follow, support the merch, buy some merch. I see you guys still buying some stuff. I know it's my fault not coming out with more creative new designs. That's on me. I apologize. But hey, guys, it's almost hoodie season. Go buy yourself a hoodie. Other than that, keep doing the thing. Appreciate you all. Appreciate both of you guys being on the show. Bo, this is your first time. I hope to have you back on again in the future, hopefully. We went long, but that seems to happen these days because with AEW there's a lot to talk about. Nick, man, you're welcome back whenever you want. I know I asked you to hop on here last minute today to say, because I like having a panel sometimes. It's a little bit more fun that way. And yeah, everyone keep doing the thing. We'll see you all next time. Ooh, yeah, dig it.